This is Rome circa 31 BCE, not yet an empire, just a humble republic that rose from a single city to conquer the entire Mediterranean. This is Octavian. Octavian has what you'd call big brain. He looks at the dusty old Roman Republic, prone to corruption, assassinations, and petty infighting that leads to pesky civil wars, and thinks to himself, if only there was someone with a plan, not me, of course. Someone with a vision to create a bigger, better Rome. Still, not me. And someone with the cunning, intellect, and will to get it done. If only there was such a man. Oh, wait. That guy over there looks like he could be up for the job. On September 2nd, Octavian's fleet, led by Agrippa, crushed the combined forces of Mark Antony and Cleopatra at the Battle of Actium. In the aftermath, Antony and Cleopatra decided to be pals to Octavian and chose to stop breathing. With that, the second triumvirate came to an end with only one man left standing. Wow. Everything's coming up Octavian. He returned to Rome and was hailed a hero by both the people and Senate, who offered him unlimited power. But he humbly refused because he just wanted to be one of the guys. Secretly, he didn't want to be one of the guys and wanted unlimited power. Later, in the year 27, the Senate, filled with lackeys loyal to Octavian, somehow, all on their own, without any help from an outside source, came up with the brilliant idea that Octavian should be in charge of Rome. At first, he wasn't sure if he should accept the job, but after talking with the smartest person he knew, himself, he quickly came to the conclusion that it was a fantastic idea. His name was changed to Augustus, which means exalted, and he took the title of Princeps First Citizen, or First Among Equals, and promised everyone that he wouldn't become a dictator. He then got to work absorbing the titles and powers of the proconsular, tribune, and censor, along with taking direct control of a majority of Rome's legions and provinces, but definitely not a dictator. Augustus would go on to serve for over 40 years, masterfully weaving through political intrigues such as the Primus affair and constant accusations of dictatorial rule. He reorganized the military, initiated tax reforms, gave Rome its first ever fire department, and was praised for numerous military victories, with the exception of one brutal loss: the disastrous wipeout of the 17th, 18th, and 19th legions at the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest in 9 CE. He also created the Praetorian Guard to keep the emperor and his family safe from everyone. Except for the Praetorian Guard. I'm sure they won't get all stabby later. In the end, Augustus died in 14 CE at the age of 75, having accomplished more than any person who was still definitely not a dictator could have accomplished. Papa Caesar would have been so proud. In his place was his stepson Tiberius, who'd assumed the role of heir 2 years prior, after Augustus outlived literally every other one of his possible heirs. By the time he became emperor after Augustus's death, he was already 55 years old and quickly grew tired of the Senate's perceived uselessness after decades of Augustus doing their jobs for them. He moved to the island of Capri just off the coast of Campania and ruled via angry letters. In his place, the leader of his Praetorian Guard, Sejanus, ruled as princeps in all but name, enacting brutal trials to purge the Senate of anyone who could challenge his authority, including the widow and eldest sons of Tiberius's late heir Germanicus, who died in 19 CE. They were exiled and later died suspiciously in the year 30. When Tiberius finally received word of what had been going on in his absence, he had Sejanus strangled and thrown from a literal and proverbial cliff. After Sejanus, Tiberius fully withdrew from Rome and its politics, although he continued the trials to purge the Senate, which permanently destroyed his relationship with them, causing most to remember him as a tyrant. Tiberius died in 37 CE at the age of 77. He'd only half-heartedly attempted to name Caligula, Germanicus's last living son, as his heir. Now, if you thought that last guy was bad at his job, well, baby, you ain't seen nothing yet. Gaius, Caesar, Augustus, Germanicus. Better remembered as Caligula, a nickname he received as a young child, which means little boots. After the assassination of his father, and later the murders of his mother and older brothers, Caligula would go live with Tiberius, his adoptive grandfather, on Capri until his death. He became emperor at the young age of 24 and was seen as ambitious, energetic, and charismatic, which were all good traits for a Roman emperor to have. With all that, he clearly made a great emperor, right? Well, he reigned for only 4 years. 3 of them were absolute chaos. He stopped, then restarted Tiberius's treason trials, was accused of having incestuous relationships with all 3 of his sisters. How very Ptolemaic of him. He then claimed to be a god, started a war with the sea, tried to make his horse a consul, though that story is most likely apocryphal. Built some pretty cool boats that would later be destroyed during World War II, possibly by the Germans. All before being assassinated by the Praetorian Guard on January 24th, 41 CE at the age of 28. Thanks, Augustus. Next came Claudius, Caligula's uncle, who was found hiding behind a curtain in the palace by the Praetorian Guard after they assassinated his nephew. They instantly declared him emperor. He'd go on to surprise everyone, including his own family, by turning out to be a competent administrator. He conquered Britain, reformed the Roman bureaucracy, farted in public. He would outlive 3 of his 4 wives and was probably murdered by the 4th one, his niece and Caligula's last surviving sister, Agrippina the Younger, in 54 CE at the age of 63. Talk about family drama. Shortly before his suspicious death, she had Claudius name her son as his heir. But don't worry, Claudius. I'm sure the empire will be safe in the capable hands of your heir. Wait, what was his name again? Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, remembered by history as Nero, or the Antichrist if you're Christian, was named emperor in 54 CE at the ripe old age of 16. Because child rulers always work out so well. He was an artist, musician, poet, and arson suspect. Though he didn't fiddle while Rome burned, he did make everything worse afterwards and blamed the Christians, hence the whole Antichrist thing. But at least he got a sick new palace out of the ordeal. So that's a plus. In 59 CE, Agrippina's scheming came back to bite her. When after years of her attempting to exert control over Nero, he put her on a ship that was rigged to sink. However, she surprisingly survived the ordeal and washed up on the riverbank, only for her to be bludgeoned and stabbed to death. With his mother dead and his tutor and advisor Seneca forced into retirement, Nero's mental state began to deteriorate, and he started to indulge his worst impulses with nobody left willing to tell him what to do. He'd divorce, exile, and later execute his wife Octavia on the charge of adultery. He supposedly kicked his second wife, Poppaea, to death while she was pregnant, later marrying a young slave boy named Sporus, who's said to have resembled Poppaea. Nero had him castrated, made him wear her clothing and wigs, and even called him by her name. For these reasons, along with Nero's disastrous tax reforms, a revolt in support of Galba, the governor of Hispania, broke out, leading to the Senate declaring Nero an enemy of the state. He awoke on the evening of June the 8th, 68 CE, to find his palace completely abandoned, fleeing the city for a nearby villa with Sporus and 3 loyal freedmen. Fearing the end, Nero stabbed himself in the stomach, dying early the next morning. With that, the Julio-Claudian Dynasty, the first ruling dynasty of the Roman Empire, came to an end and would usher in the year of the 4 emperors. Which, if you haven't guessed, was a year with 4 different men claiming to be emperor and shouldn't be confused with the year of the 5 emperors, which comes later. Anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe, and remember, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, which is to put lead in your wine, kill your family members because they're plotting against you, and then get assassinated by your own friends. Ah, Rome.